Today I'm here to talk about something we all use every day. So the internet has undergone tectonic shifts in the last 3 decades. To give you some perspective, there's about 1.4 billion websites on the web today. Conversely, about 5.4 billion social accounts. That's a 4-to-1 ratio. And to make things more dramatic, only 200 million of these websites are active at all. About 27 years ago, the internet was in massive disarray. There was millions of websites all saying different things, and it was honestly impossible to find what you were looking for. And so Google came on the scene and developed PageRank, which was the perfect solution for many, many years. It changed the world. However, the internet has changed, and that's no more. So nowadays, only about 6 websites house 99% of human attention. We all know their names. That would be Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, and our favorite, x.com. People have become the newsmakers. Now, to get a little more granular, this shift happened in 2020. And no, I'm not talking about COVID. I would never be talking about that here. I'm talking about when TikTok actually received more search queries than Google. People use a social network to search for things more than a search engine. This is a massive shift, and it will continue in perpetuity. So we've shrunk the internet down to 6 apps, and we've given people a voice to be confident behind an anonymous profile, and yet we've decided that the best way to judge them is with a heart button. You know, in today's world, virality substitutes for research. You get 1 million followers and a blue check mark, and people are going to listen to you. Might as well have a PhD. But that's calories, not nutrition. That's measuring activity and not accuracy. And so for the last 4 years, I've devoted my life to try and make sense and extract value from these social networks. I've built a company that uses social content to build data algorithms for professional traders and at banks and hedge funds, some of the largest in the world. We do use traditional media through partnerships with the Washington Post, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, but by and large, the majority of our content comes from social networks. So I've fallen down the world's largest rabbit hole to try and separate the truth from the noise, and I believe there are ways to do it. By the end of this talk, I think you'll know how as well. And so as somebody who builds algorithms for a living, my job is to be calculated. It's to mitigate risk for people moving billions of dollars at a time. But fate does love irony, and in my case, perhaps a little too much. And so my most memorable trade actually has nothing to do with data and everything to do with dopamine. And so I don't know how many of you have ever bought a coin or a stock online before after listening to some influencer. Yeah? Okay, so I'm not alone here. And so once upon a time, in a MacBook not too far away, 50,000 person Discord actually convinced me to buy a coin that shall remain nameless at about $300 or so. And so I thought I was onto something, okay? I felt high conviction. Every new like was a step forward, and every new buyer was just another reason to double down. And so I put a lot of money in this thing. Unfortunately, it went to zero. And so we're told we live in an age of information overload, but frankly, that's not the problem. The problem is accountability underload. And so as I watched this chart go straight down all the way to zero, I felt extremely embarrassed. You know, I hadn't done the work. I'd collected likes. I'd outsourced my conviction to a crowd that felt smart just because they were loud. And so how do you make sense in a world where groupthink is so prevalent? You know, we do have community notes on X. That's a fantastic invention, but it can't see the future. You know, influencers will often create grandiose visions of what could happen, of a future that we want to exist. And so we pile in. You know, we might buy that course that says it's going to 10x us in 10 weeks and 30 days. We know it's foolish, and yet we do it anyways. And so how do you make sense of a future like this? In no other arena is this more disastrous than in financial markets. And you see this play out on no greater stage than on social networks. And so social networks have been moving financial markets since their inception. You look back at 2013, a single hack tweet from the Associated Press reading, "Attack on the White House, Barack Obama injured," move markets down 250 billion in 5 minutes. In 2016, you have Donald Trump taking no prisoners when he very boldly claimed that the F-35 built by Lockheed Martin was faulty. He crashed their stock billions of dollars before breakfast. And sometimes these influencers don't even know that they're doing these. Like in 2018, when Kylie Jenner tweeted, just probably a thought in the air, does anybody use Snapchat anymore? Little did she know, the stock would fall 1/5 of its value that weekend. And so in a world where everybody's saying the same thing, it's very tough to understand incentives, and markets can move by a single post. How does the individual gain any leverage? Is it even possible? Perhaps not. But what if it is? What if there's a way to get back to objective reality and find the truth? What if there's a way to see who's actually worth listening to? And it starts with this. Stop ranking pages, start ranking people. I call it people rank. An objective system on which to base track records and build a ranking for individuals. And really it's just down to 3 steps. So 1, choose a belief. 2, set your window. And 3, grade it. So if somebody online says the S&P 500 is going to do well, mark it, write that in stone. You choose your window. What time period are you looking at? Do you care about a week from now, a month from now, maybe 3 years from now? Set what works for you. And then when you grade it, what exactly does well mean? Define that for yourself. Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Is it 25%? Choose what works for you and do this over time. Take many different concentrated at-bats, and at a certain point, you're going to get a batting average for truth. This is a portable reputation score that's very, very tough to fake. And so when I made my 300 to 0 mistake, I set out to build a vision of the future that I wish existed that day. You know, I'm a finance grad. I had no idea how to code before this. And so I leveraged AI to do it for me. I think that's a very important part of every conversation today. You have these massive AI companies spending literally hundreds of billions of dollars per year on improving these models. However, they're in a race to zero. They are commoditizing themselves to stay in the race. And the result is, for the first time ever, a product where all the surplus is actually passed to the consumer. So all of us in this room have $100 billion waiting in our phones to be unlocked. And so that's what I did. We built an API that does the unglamorous work of tracking people's opinions, building track records, and doing this across millions of people at a time. And so our clients told us something very interesting recently. They said that no matter what domain, you only need to follow about 3 to 5 very accurate individuals for you to hit it out of the park each and every time. And that's because these people, they're not eating information calories. They're having protein. They're healthy, and they're not spewing garbage. And so these track records get better over time. Your models will improve the more you do this. It's like strength training. You take a bunch of conservative bets or a bunch of conservative lifts. That's how you build your muscle. An ego lift is bound to injure you. So when people are making bold claims online, they're just hurting themselves. And so I'll leave you here with 2 challenges, one for the individual and one for the teams. For individuals, every single week, choose a belief. Write that claim, set the window, and see how it goes. Mark those timestamps and go for confidence and not certainty. Things will improve over time. And for the teams in this room, please build this for me. You know, please build predictions into your products, allow people to judge their confidence scores and build accuracy into their names. And when you're pushing information, push not based on activity, but based on accuracy, because then maybe a guy like me won't lose $300 buying a coin that should have never existed. Rank pages, rank people, not pages, so that we might have a more transparent internet going forward. And I think it needs to exist. Thank you very much, and that's my time.